Hey there folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another review, more like a re-review, since that whole Dundee thing, which yeah, I know it's fake, but I even said in that video long before, which apparently some people, they didn't actually watch the video, because they would see that 2 minutes and 27 seconds in, I said, if it's a gag, then it's a waste of money, and it's a waste of time when you could have special editions of these movies with features, interviews, commentaries. The first film has a trailer, the second film has a trailer, and a little 5-minute featurette from back in the day. And people forget how popular these films were. I mean, the second film, when that debuted in 1988, that went up against Rambo 3, and it beat Rambo 3. And in fact, by the end of it, the second film made $109 million in the U.S. That's no small feat today, let alone back then. In retrospect, in 1988, Die Hard made like 80 million. Rambo 3 made like 60-some million. But Crocodile Dundee 2 made 109 million in the U.S. I did too. The first film, when this came out, it was the second biggest film of the year in the U.S. and worldwide. Number 1 was Top Gun. This was number 2. That's how popular Crocodile Dundee was. And lo and behold, this film was nominated for an Oscar for the screenplay. I shit you not. Don't believe me? Look it up. This was nominated for, I think it was, they specify like original screenplay. Oscar nominated Crocodile Dundee. I know there's Australians today who don't like the film because they feel it's offensive because, hey, that's not how we talk. I'm not Australian, so maybe that's why, but I never found it offensive. I never thought it was, this is how all Australians are like. It's just, it'd be like making a hillbilly movie in here, but if it's a good guy who deep down is, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I watched Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and I'm not going, oh, they think all people are like that, and they talk like that. No, it's exaggerated, and bit of, I don't want to say fantasy, but it's not meant to be realistic. It's all in fun. And to me, I would love to be Crocodile Dundee. He's a badass who can deal with crocodiles, falls in love at the end with a beautiful lady. It's tough, he can handle himself, he can make a connection with animals. He's a good-hearted guy. He's a very likable guy. And this was definitely the film that Paul Hogan brought him acclaim. Well, the first film at least, critics seem to enjoy. The sequels not so much. But fame, and then he did Crocodile Dundee 2, and then after that his career pretty much died because he did Almost an Angel, which I haven't seen, but I know Elias Koteas from the first Ninja Turtles movie, he's in it. And that film bombed badly. And then he did Lightning Jack, which I had fun with, but that bombed. Flipper I haven't seen, but that bombed. And then he's done like 2 other films, and that's it, other than Crocodile Dundee 3. But the first film right off the bat, why do I enjoy this movie? I think it's funny. I watched it today, and it still made me laugh. It made me chuckle. It made me smile. Has a lot of memorable bits. I think it's a great fish out of water story. You have great scenes. That's not a knife. That's a knife. The guy who's doing cocaine, and he thinks his nose is plugged up. There's a better way of doing that, and puts all his cocaine in this thing, puts some boiling water. Just sniff that for 10 minutes. Sniff the steam. You'll be just like new. I thought that scene made me laugh. Certain lines of dialogue I enjoy when someone asks him about religion. I read the Bible once. They were fishermen like me. Me and God, we'd be mates. We'd be buddies. And I remember I reviewed this a long time ago, quite a few years ago, and someone left an interesting comment where he's not 100% good all, end all, be all in the fact that when these kangaroos are getting shot, this woman here, who is the reporter, played by Linda Kozlowski, she's like, oh, they're hunting these poor kangaroos, and he's like, well, right now there's no law against that. And he's like, okay, so but deep down, he's a good-hearted guy, and it's a good-natured film. I know nowadays these are considered sexist and homophobic and racist. I call bullshit on all that. I think it's PC, SJW, people getting their tight panties in a twist. People may find that offensive, but I don't care, because people need to get some fucking lead out of their diet. They need to get some fucking corn cob out of their ass, because it's too tight. Any tighter and hotter is going to be making popcorn right out of your sphincter. I mean, for fuck's sake, man. These movies are meant for fun. I think they work well as comedies. I will talk about the third one as well when I get to that. Step down from the first two, but my favorite has always been the first one. It has a really... I think the love story works very well. These two fell in love and got married, and they were married for, I think, at least 20-some years. They divorced in I want to say around 2013, give or take, but they said they're still friendly with each other. It's just, over 20 years, things just sort of fell out, but again, they've said that they're still friendly with each other, which is nice. And really buy the chemistry they had between the two of them. Paul Hogan did a great job, and he created a very memorable character. The music by Peter Best, who did the score for the first two films, he did a beautiful job on the score. I love the main theme. I especially love the quiet moments, which if I attempt to do, I do a horrific job. But the very quiet, soft, heartfelt moments. In the first film, you see a little appearance by Reginald VelJohnson, who would star in the show Family Matters. He would also be in Die Hard, and a little bit in Die Hard 2. He had a bit role in Ghostbusters before this. He's there as a limo driver who works with Linda Kozlowski and her people. And the story, Linda Kozlowski works for a newspaper that her dad owns. She hears about this tale of a man who went through thick and thin, got attacked by a crocodile, crawled for miles and miles, barely survived. She gets there and she finds out the story was pretty over-exaggerated. So she still does a story. Mick Dundee, aka Crocodile Dundee, takes her out into the Outback, shows her the sights and sounds, and they develop a love story. And then about the middle of the film, she takes him to New York. You have the fish out of water story. And then a fairy tale, fun, heartfelt, satisfying ending where they're in the subway. And, despite all the complaints people give about the movie, about it being sexist and racist and homophobic, but they want to discount stuff like, it shows New York in a good light, I think. I mean, the ending alone where strangers are helping these two connect in this crowded subway, and they're lifting him up, and he's going over them to hug the new love of his life as this great music rises up. I think that always made me that always made me smile ever since I was a kid. I always thought it was sweet. It's a take, in a way, it's sort of a comedic take off of Tarzan. I mean, they even do a reference in Tarzan where Linda Kozlowski mentions You know, so you made me feel like I'm Jane in the Tarzan comic. And you have a little bit of the aspect of that. And also what I like about the story, it doesn't get too convoluted. It doesn't get too complicated. It doesn't get too out there with delivering and trying to deliver countless subplots and countless side stories, which I think worked for the better. It was just sort of a slice of life of what this particular character did in the Outback, and then his trying to fit into New York, and this love story aspect. It wasn't, oh, by the way, here's some diamonds that someone stole, and here's some other stuff that we gotta throw in there. And sometimes there are movies that try to do that. They try to overstuff it, and you go, I don't know if you needed some of these elements. Sometimes it's okay to keep it simple and not complicated, not convoluted. And also, watching it again, you realize how this is not a really both of these, even though the second film is PG, they're not family films. They're not kids' movies. I think that's one of the problems. I don't mind Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. I can still watch it. I think it's okay as a time waster. But I think one of the reasons why it's a step down from these two is that film is, it seemed to be trying to be more like a kids, like family film, at least the feel to it, which I get more into that. These are not. These are meant for, I almost want to say adults. I mean, kids can watch them. I watched this many times when I was a kid. I know I wasn't alone. But they weren't labeled as, quote, kids' movies. While the third one seemed a little bit more going to that territory. That's not the only problem, but yeah, I think it's one of the big ones. But here, the first one is PG-13. You have characters saying shit and shit for brains, and someone uses, well, if I say this word, I'm going to get in trouble. Think of the word tag, but instead of T, it's an F. That word gets said, and there's a cross-dresser, gay person. I guess that's where the homophobic comes in. And you have cocaine. Hell, Dick Dundee. Yeah, that's fucking Danny McBride's name, Dick Dundee. Mick Dundee, he's smoking a cigarette, for crying out loud. And like I said, someone using cocaine, and it's not a kid's movie. And I appreciate it for that. But it wasn't over-the-top crass, in my opinion, like a lot of movies today. I mean, fuck, look at trailers for movies like Blockers with John Cena, John Wiener, all these other fucking movies. And then get back to me. Watch movies like the shitty reboot of Vacation, and then get back to me. But I like the other characters. When she goes over, there's a guy named Nugget, there's a character named Donk, who's a big guy. There's another guy who sort of kind of owns the place. We're close friends with Mick Dundee. Sadly, the person passed away who played Walter. I actually want to get the guy's name. I think it's John Meelan. Sadly, he passed away, I think, after the pretty soon after the second film. It was which is too bad. I want to get his name real quick. They call him Wall, but his character's name is Walter. And again, it seems like a very likable guy. John Meelan. Died shortly after the second film's release. Well, that's too bad. He did a good job in both these movies. And I really liked the character of Mick Dundee. I really liked him. He's getting the girl to dance, and some people giving him a hard time about poaching. He's like, how would I know? Shit for brains? I just punches the guy after being called a poacher. There's this big guy named Daunt, and he's trying to get people to knock the beer off him. And he's like, well, what should I do? And he kisses him on the cheek and pisses him off. And just sort of the dialogue that Paul Hogan, Ken Shady, and John Cornell, all three did the screenplay. Or at least their names are on it. I like some of the lines they had for this guy. Like, he talks about, I asked one of the tribal elders when I was born. He said in the summertime. Or when he's talking with Linda Kozlowski, and he's like, oh yeah, I used to have someone. Good cook. Big. And then the other guy's like, don't say that. I went on walkabout and I was gone a couple months. Try 18. And then she's like, oh, she didn't wait for you. Strange girl. Mick Dundee goes, yeah. I thought these two had great chemistry with each other. And you have this memorable scenes, like when he does sort of the mind over matter with the water buffalo. And it also shows that he's not infallible. Like, he's trying to impress this girl from time to time. Like, she asks for the time, and he secretly looks at his buddy's watch, and then he's like playing cool, looking at the sun. Oh, about 12:30. And then when she goes to the buddy, John Meelan, he hides the watch. He's like, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing. And then as they're going off, Crocodile Dundee looks at his buddy and goes, Wednesday, okay, we'll be back. What's today? Monday. Oh, okay. And this is a character who, lives out in the boonies. But he's a nice guy who sticks to his own slice of life. When she's asking about the arms race, he's like, none of my business. Well, you gotta have a voice. Who's going to hear it out here? Which makes me smile, considering how things are in today's age. When things get so political and so much political makes you want to puke. That, yeah, it's like, there's another piece of dialogue where, oh, who owns this land? And Paul Hogan's character mentions, it's like two fleas fighting over a dog. And, yeah, I think, despite what people want to say, if you really look at the character, I don't think there's nothing too wrong with being like Crocodile Dundee. Badass and a nice guy. Decent guy. Perfect? No. I mean, like I said, there's the kangaroo poacher scene. He's like, oh, they're shooting them for fun. He's like, there's no law against that. But then he stops them, takes one of the kangaroos the bad guy shot, shoots at them. That's one of the moments where the music really works for the flick. Again, give credit to Peter Best. That did a really good job with the score for both of these movies. And like I say, he's trying to impress the girl. He's using a regular razor, and then when she's coming, he hides it, picks up his big knife, and plays off cool. Again, really likable character. And they fall in love. There's an attraction. And people say sexist, but I guess because they just look at images like this and they just say it. But Linda Kozlowski is not a pushover. And she's not a, ooh, Brooke and Neil did it, wait. She does a good job too. She's a reporter. There's a scene where she gets the gun. And he's sort of like, hey, you know, that's the end that shoots. And he's like, cocks the gun, shoots at his feet. Oh, go figure. You know, yeah, I could see that. I just because, well, she gets saved by this crocodile. Yeah, the guy whose name is Crocodile Dundee saves her from a crocodile. Wow. Gee, I wonder why. But, you know, it's not that big of a deal, folks. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. It's not that big of a deal. And again, people say racist. I mean, seems like if it was racist, it'd have the natives doing the cliche, trying to kill someone and trying to hunt someone, and or being cannibals, or I wouldn't even say that's racist, but whatever. I'm just saying doing the typical thing. Here it's just a normal person. When Dundee gets a knife on him, and the guy looks and goes, Mick, you frightened shit out of me. I thought that was hilarious. I thought the delivery of that line was great too. Oh, you can't take my photograph. Oh, you're worried it'll take your soul? No, you got the lens cap on. And he's like on a watch. Crikey, Mick, I better get going. Like he's a guy who lives in the city, but he has his respects his ancestors as well, and where he came from. And I'm like, did people watch? Do people watch these movies, or what am I missing? What am I missing? I don't get it. And like I said, she's like, hey, why don't I take you back to New York? And just, you know, fun. People will go typical, but to me it's fun, fish out of water stuff in New York. You know, he's not sure about the escalators, so he's easing back. Kind of stuff you would see in movies like Paddington or other stuff. I liked Paddington as well. And just moments ever since I was a kid that made me laugh. When he's first on the plane and it's going up, you just hear him going, Jesus Christ. That makes me laugh every single time. Or he can't find an ashtray, so he puts the cigarette out, you know, ashes on his hat. Or he doesn't know what a bidet is. Oh, it's for washing your backside, right? Oh, he's out on the sidewalk of New York and it's crowded. And he's trying to get through. He's like, shit. And he has to climb on a sign to just go look. And again, that's what makes this guy a likable guy. He'll be friends with everybody. He'll talk to anybody. He'll shake hands with everybody. He'll be nice to everybody. So, granted, yes, I know I'm not Australian, but I don't really understand why someone would be offended by this guy. I mean, I don't. Because no one ever thought that all Australians talked like that. Again, that'd be like watching Tucker and Dale versus Evil and going, everybody in America talks like those two guys. And I'd be like, well, no, that's not true. But at the same time, those are two nice guys, and there's a good message about those guys. So, even in that example, I'm like, hey, Tucker and Dale seem like cool guys too. They're nice people. I guess the better example would be Deliverance. It's not like, oh, all people in the South are like Deliverance. No, not really. I don't live in the South. I live in the Midwest, but no, they're not all like that. But you don't see a lot of people giving shit to Deliverance. Maybe they do and I just don't know it, but you know, just saying. And yeah, maybe someone will educate me on that. So I guess in a way this is me re-reviewing and kind of defending the film too. And you get to the scene, which I'm sure is why people call homophobic, because yes, there's a guy dressed as a girl, and I hate to break it to you, some people, there are people, including, I can buy a taxi driver in New York saying the F word that rhymes with tag. I can believe that. I didn't really think it was homophobic. I honestly thought it was just, that is something that happens and he doesn't know anything about. But I just took it for what it was, I guess, face value. I mean, the next scene, he's talking with hookers. And he doesn't understand hookers either, because he's like, they're going, we might have to give you one for free. And he's like, yeah. One what? And maybe that's why people get offended, because they feel, oh, this guy's so dumb. And that's the point of a fish out of water story. I mean, with every fish out of water story, you have to... I guess it's okay if it's Wonder Woman. If it's Wonder Woman be a fish out of water, it's okay. I'm just saying, that's a film that got the pass. I prefer these movies over Wonder Woman. And then you get to weird edit in the audio, which from what I understand, the Australian version of the DVD, it doesn't have that, because there's a pimp of the hookers. He's like, yo, talk to him all day or you're gonna screw one. And you could tell he didn't say screw, he said fuck. But apparently in that cut, that edited vulgarity is not edited. He does say fuck in that. And I guess there's like a few other little scenes put back into the film. And again, instead of wasting your money on a stupid Danny McBride shit for a fucking Super Bowl ad that no one likes and everyone thinks looks like shit, you could have spent it in those scenes, interviews, commentaries for special editions of these. To me, a better usage of money and funds. And people want to get pissed at me, why are you yelling about it? This is a waste of fucking time and money, that's why. If more people would not let that shit go on, then maybe we'd get better things. But no one wants to fucking say anything. Everyone wants to, no, I don't say shit. And put your head up your ass and try to muffle it. This is why I'm not popular. Because I do that shit. Fuck it. But yeah, I enjoy the scenes where Linda Kozlowski is messing with them and pretends to be the maid. And he's like, oh, wait a minute. And she tells him that she's goofing, and he's like, oh, for a minute there, room service took on a whole new meaning. But there's some nice, quiet, sweet moments when they're taking pictures around New York, and you do see images of the Twin Towers, and you have the Empire State Building. Well, another little bit that was fun in the Outback, and it's revisited in New York, is when he gives her something, oh, you can eat, you can live on it, but it tastes like shit. And so you have another reference to that, because she's showing him a hot dog. You can live on it, but it tastes like shit. You have the party where he thinks someone is a guy. Oh, and it's really a girl. Oh, pleased to meet you. And Linda Kozlowski explains, oh, he's just trying to say hi. He's from Australia. And the girl goes, maybe I ought to go there someday. And that's where you get the guy with the cocaine, tries to help with the blocked nose. Hey, there's a better way of doing that. It has the boiled water. I thought that was pretty damn funny. Yeah, the scene, that's not a knife. That's a knife. That's a classic line. Even when, again, I like sort of, it's just a slice of life of this fish out of water and love story put together. It's not 5-10 10, 15 other subplots trying to overblow the movie, which I do feel at times happens a lot in movies today. It's almost as if we're not sure about our initial concept. We're not sure if we can follow through with that, so let's put in this subplot and this subplot, so maybe they'll laugh at that too. It's the same with, you have movies where ad-libs, you can tell the ad-libs go on for way too long, and it's like, we think it's funny, and we think it's funny, and I'm like, yeah, but the audience isn't laughing. So, you know, consider an editor. I know someone said, you should consider an editor in your videos. I'm like, yeah, sure, give me a budget equivalent of a movie, I'll hire an editor. Again, give me, you know, the budget that, hell, give me the money that someone makes being an editor, and I'll edit the videos. Jerk off. I can't help it, I'm just in one of those moods today. Because, you know, I like this film. I like both these movies. I don't think they're as bad as people fucking make it out to be. I like when he finds out that this other guy proposes to Linda Kozlowski. He doesn't act like an asshole. He doesn't act like he owns her. He's like, it is what it is, and goes out and doesn't try to argue and fight. He allows her to be her own person. And yet this is sexist. Gets mugged by the pimp. Oh, this guy does like bad fucking language. That's another thing. There's an F word in this. Not a kid's film. Not a family film. And Carl Winslow himself, Ridgeville Johnson, stops one of them, knocks him out. The ending says goodbye to the doorman, and Linda Kozlowski's looking for Crocodile Dundee, and hold this to the doorman. The doorman's looking at it, and two people look, and then they go right back to the hotel. And yet, to me, again, a fairy tale type of ending in a subway. What do you want? I love the guy with the bandana. I think it's a bandana. What do you want? I love that guy. And they're sort of getting information between all this crowded people in the subway. Again, he comes over the people, they help him out. Again, shows New York in a good light. They hug, freeze frame, great music. Really makes me smile. And, you know, they don't make a lot of movies like this. Why? Because these movies now are too cheesy or corny or sexist or racist or homophobic or SJW, TU, barbecue for life. Fuck that shit. To me, Crocodile Dundee is a classic. It deserves so much more features, interviews, commentaries. The alternate version, why can't that be released here in the US? Even if it's just a couple of minutes of footage, being a fan, I would like to see that. That deserves a lot more. I mean, for fuck's sake, it was the second biggest film of the year when it came out. Or, as you can word it, the biggest box office comedy of 1986. Because again, #1 was Top Gun, which was an action movie. And the sequel was very successful too. And I don't understand that. Paramount, pair of pricks. But that's my thoughts on Crocodile Dundee. Again, I think it's a classic. Loved the film ever since I was a kid. Still enjoy it to this day. So thanks for watching. Take care. And we will see you later. Bye-bye.